Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. We are very excited about the session and the large number of people who are in attendance today. Today's topic is on building student community and engagement using online tools. And I'm joined today by 4 of our active learning leaders at UNC Charlotte this year. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but thank you all for joining us today for the Center for Teaching and Learning Active Learning Academy Forum. We're going to have a great time. We're going to learn about a lot of great tools today. I will hand it over to my presenters now.
Okay, fantastic. Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Cynthia Bush, and as Jules just said, you are here to learn more about techniques to build and foster student community engagement, especially in an online environment. Excuse me. So there are 4 of us who will be walking through this discussion with you. And again, I'm Cynthia Bush with the Belk College of Business. And then you see the photos of the other 4, Harini, Celia, and Monica. So we're super excited to be here today. Our goal is to make this an interactive session. So please feel free to put comments or questions in the chat. Jules has been kind enough to agree to volunteer to monitor that as we go along. You don't need to hold your questions to the end. It's probably better if you ask them when you think about them, particularly if, as we demonstrate different types of tools, you may have a question about that tool. So that's really the best time to ask it. We will also save questions for the end, save time at the end if you have any additional questions. So again, we hope to make this very interactive and make sure that we can get all of your questions answered in the time that we have. Okay, so the first thing we'd like to do is take a little bit of a poll to see exactly who is with us today and make sure we understand a little bit about your interests and backgrounds. So if you could go to this poll, and Harini is going to pull it up on the screen. And you should see this first question: what college are you in? And everybody here, if everybody is not familiar with Poll Everywhere, Harini just posted the link in the chat. And all of us who are here at UNCC have access to this software for free. So this should be something all you need to do is sign in with your UNCC NinerNet ID, for those of you who aren't as familiar with it.
No, that's not what I want.
If you're having any difficulty getting to the poll, I have put a direct hyperlink into the chat that you can click on to get to it.
We'll give it a minute to allow people to get in here. And as you can see at the bottom, for those of you who aren't as familiar with Poll Everywhere, it's showing the number of responses it's received so far. If it says pre-registration, just try to put in your NinerNet user ID. See if that works. And so what I normally do when I use Poll Everywhere in my classes, if I have a class of 75 students, I'll wait till I've got about 50 responses or so, and then go ahead and show the results of the poll. For those of you who aren't familiar with Poll Everywhere, you can use this on your phones as well as your laptops. A lot of the students like to use it on their phones. So it does have an app for it as well. So we'll give it just another minute or two. Jules, you think you could help Sharice?
Yeah, let me see. Okay, my class, not your questions. So Sharice, I think if you try clicking on the link that's in the chat up above, I think that now that you're logged into Poll Everywhere, I think if you click on the link that we put in the HTTPS one with the hyperlink, then it should take you to the poll. Let me know if that solves your problem.
I think what Cynthia just mentioned, some people might be getting that pre-registration error. I tried that link myself just to make sure it's working, and there does come up that pre-registration error. So please follow what Dr. Cynthia just mentioned, that, use your Niner ID. That should resolve the issue.
Yes, it helped me. I'm in. This is Sharice.
Okay, fantastic.
So I can
That's great.
one question right here.
Yeah, we have one active right now.
Okay.
And if you're in, we've got 23 responses. Harini, you want to show what the results are? Harini is the driver today. Okay, so we've got a fair number of folks from the College of Arts and Liberal Arts and Sciences, but we've got good representation, I think, across campus. Keep plugging away at it, Wendy. We've got a couple more questions coming up, so hopefully you'll have a chance to participate. All right, so the next thing we'd like to know is what size classes do you typically teach?
Oh.
Ooh, hold on. Here we go. So go ahead and answer this one too, please.
Okay.
Wendy, you said it's taking a long time to sign up. Could you let us know what error you are getting so we can best help you? You could type it in the chat and see if there is something our team could address, and see if other participants are also facing that. Okay, glad, Miss Wendy, correct.
All right, fantastic. Okay, all right. Okay, so hopefully we've got good representation here, Harini, if you want to show the responses. All right, so we've got 40% of you who are teaching smaller classes, which we're defining as less than 40 students. And then we've got a quarter of those who are with us today who are teaching 40 to 100 students, smaller amount teaching greater than 100, and then about a quarter who are teaching mixed. All right, so that gives us a good sense of, sometimes tools are better for people who are teaching large classes, and sometimes there are tools that are more geared to those teaching smaller classes. So we basically have 40% of those of you here with us today teaching smaller classes, which is good to know. All right, we'll go to the next question. Have you taught online before? If you can answer that one for us. Okay, now our results are flowing in, so it looks like most everybody was able to access Poll Everywhere at this point. All right, we've got about 25. You want to show the responses, Harini? So slightly more than 50% have really been forced into this online environment thanks to the global pandemic. So I think there are a fair number of us. I have taught online before, as have some of my co-presenters, but certainly it's one thing when you're prepared to teach a course online. It's another thing when you find out a week before that the course is going online, as was what's happened this past spring. So, so we'll keep that in mind as we're going through the presentation. And I think, do we have one more question, Harini? Yep, here we go.
I don't see the answers that you have.
You didn't see the answers to the prior question?
None of them. I haven't seen any of them, but that's okay. I mean, I'm doing this.
Is anybody else with that problem? Are you looking at the Zoom? Because we're putting the answers up on the Zoom. Okay, Sam says he sees them. Yep. All right, let's see if we can share these responses as well and see if you guys can see them. So we are on the shared screen in Zoom. So if you were looking at our presentation, you should now be looking at the response to this question. And the question was, what modes have you used for online or hybrid classes? And 60% of everybody who is here today has been using synchronous and asynchronous. And then hopefully you see this question in terms of what types of activities have you used that require online tools? Please enter one response for each type of activity and use underscores instead of spaces if you could. So this is more of a free response type of thing.
Maybe back up and reload the slide. It looks like it's not activated quite yet.
It is. I see one response.
Oh,
I'm
it is.
not showing the responses yet, but I could actually, since this is a word cloud, we could just sort of see responses as we go along.
I'm not seeing the, you know how at the top it usually shows the go to Harini poll. It's just not showing up on this one, which makes me wonder if, oh,
Yeah,
but it looks like it's working. So we're all good. Thanks.
I really do like these word clouds for some discussions. Yeah, just go ahead and type it in. And I tell the students when we do something like this that, you know, if I ask them a generalized question and they're able to answer it in a few words or so, then we talk about obviously the words that are biggest on the screens are the ones that came to people's minds. So in this particular case, it looks like people are using a fair number of discussion boards and online quizzes is takeaway from this question. I also see a few other technologies listed here, including Flipgrid. I thought I saw something else. Let's see. Google Slides, presentation, Padlets, and a few other things. Oh, good. Somebody's been using Jamboards, etc. So these are some of the tools that we're going to discuss with you. There's a lot of them out there. So we have just pulled a few, certainly in the interest of time. And we've tried to choose ones that maybe you will have less familiarity with. But for those of you who haven't seen Poll everywhere before, this is a demonstration of that software. So we, as I said before, we pulled out some of the tools that we think would be fun to show you. And so you're going to see them pop up on the screen. We are going to talk about tools related to simulating conference rooms in an online environment. We're also going to talk about some software that you can use to facilitate quizzes. And so that'll be fun. And then, you know you guys are familiar with some types of discussion boards. We'll put up maybe one or two that maybe you're less familiar with that are great for trying to generate spontaneous feedback from various topics. So we'll discuss that. And we've also got some whiteboards, similar type of idea, but in the online environment. And then finally, we have some tools around using with videos. So that is the plan for today. And that's how we've categorized them. All right, so I'm going to turn this over to my co-presenters, and I'll be back with you shortly when we get to some of the discussions of the software that I'm going to be showing.
Harini, did you want to kick off? Sorry, who's sharing?
It's Harini, but we're seeing, yep, there we go. We see it. We're good. Thank you, Harini.
Celia, when you need to share your audio, etc., we can switch and you can share your screen.
Okay. Are you talking about Flipgrid, and then I'll go to my slide. Harini, is this you or me?
This one's you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that you were going to introduce Flipgrid. Sorry. Oh, yes. It's Celia Sinclair. Sorry for, we're trying to juggle a lot of balls here. But I want to talk briefly about Flipgrid. I'm new to it. Some of you are probably pros with it, but this slide just gives you real quickly the purpose, the advantages and the disadvantages. And one of the neatest things about Flipgrid is that it's integrated with our Canvas LMS and that you can grade using the speed grader. So it's very handy that way. And students love it because it has a Snapchat kind of feel to it. So my courses are all asynchronous. They never really see each other in a Zoom class. So with Flipgrid, they can see each other. And I want to show you on the next slide, if you can advance, or I guess I can, an icebreaker activity using Flipgrid. This can also come in at any point in your course. But this just gives you some links about the how-tos. You make a Flipgrid account. And you integrate with Canvas and you create a Flipgrid assignment. And I just wanted to show you real quick the icebreaker activity that I'm using for this. It's kind of fun. Can you hear me? Okay, guys, here are 3 steps.
So can you all see the video that I'm sharing? Okay,
Statements about me. 1, I have a house in the mountains. 2, I have a therapy dog who greets passengers at the airport. 3, I'm a wedding officiant. I've married 50 couples. Guess which one is a fib? See ya. Okay, so you can see that would be a fun sort of get to know. Okay, guys, here are 3 statements about stop. that would be a fun get to know you kind of icebreaker activity. But Flipgrid comes up with you can embed a TED talk, a text, a document, and then have people discuss that up to 5 minutes, which is a long time. Recommended time would be like maybe 1 or 2 minute activities, I think. So that's Flipgrid, and if anybody wants to add to those comments, please do so. And I'm done.
Can I jump in for a second, everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we had a question that I'd love to address about Poll Everywhere and Flipgrid. They're both really cool tools. I love to use both of them in classes that I design. So with that being said, Poll Everywhere, there is a little minor difference I want you to know about 2 of them. 1, Poll Everywhere is enterprise-wide supported, meaning that we purchased it. One IT supports it. Center for Teaching and Learning supports it. Jessica Capote, my colleague, can help you set up teams and things of that nature. So it's a very cool tool in that sense. Now, Poll Everywhere, again, enterprise-wide supported. So if something goes wrong with Poll Everywhere, we will help you fix it. That's because we're able to actually talk to the Poll Everywhere administrators if there's something that goes wrong on their end. Flipgrid, we have gotten for free. It comes along with a Microsoft license that we have already. It's a wonderful tool. Again, it's free, but we do not have an enterprise-wide license for it. So if something goes wrong with Flipgrid, we have limited capability to support you and helping you with that. Doesn't stop you from using it at all. As a matter of fact, you can embed it into Canvas. It embeds into Canvas. It's wonderful. But if there is like some kind of technical glitch that were to occur and you couldn't figure out how to fix it, you could ask us. We might not be able to figure out how to fix it. We don't have anyone at Flipgrid, the company, that we can reach out to help correct it for us. So that's the difference between the 2. The other item is that Flipgrid is not accessible. And so if you have a student in your class who has vision or hearing issues and has given you a letter from the Office of Accessibility Services, then you will have to come up with a different option for them. But if you don't have a student in your class who has any of those issues, Flipgrid away. It is a really great way for students to build community, see each other, and get to know each other like they would just in the classroom. So I hope that that information is helpful. I love both of those tools. And so I just wanted to clarify the difference between the 2 as far as technical support went. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions on Flipgrid? Thanks so much, Jules, for clarifying that.
There was the question coming from Olga saying, what are some benefits as opposed to just a video on a Canvas discussion board? And I'll address that real quickly. I think it just feels to the students more familiar because of the Snapchat feel to it. And they're just more accustomed to that kind of thing. I haven't used videos on Canvas discussion boards, but someone else can jump in on that. But Flipgrid just is more user-friendly, I think. Where can they find a rubric for a Flipgrid embedded assignment? You know what? I don't think you can do that on Flipgrid. Can you, Jules?
So you would create the assignment, you would embed it. Yeah, no, I don't think you can add a rubric to it. So that would be a limitation, definitely. But to your point about it being much like Snapchat, students do love it for that reason. They download the Flipgrid app onto their cell phones, onto their smartphones, and they create their Flipgrids using their smartphones. And so it is this fun kind of Snapchat-like, Instagram-like, interaction with school. So.
Thanks.
All right. Seeing no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and, Harini, if you could give me control, and then I can share my screen. Thank you very much. Okay, folks, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a software called Padlet, sorry. And let me just pull this up here so you can see my screen. Okay. So hopefully all of you are seeing this here. And first, let's talk a little bit about what it is. So it is very similar to the whiteboard concept. So if you are doing something in your course where you want to get some spontaneous feedback from your students, this is certainly a great software to use. Some of the advantages of it are you can just put the link in your chat. And so you don't need to embed something, and the students don't need to have a login to sign in and etc. It is easy to use and share, and I'll show you that. If there's information on there, you know how sometimes you're in a discussion when we're in person and people are writing things on flip charts and then they want to save the flip charts. You can also save the Padlet. So if you wanted to refer to it in the future, you can print it, you can email it, etc. And it allows multiple editors. If you're concerned that someone may put up something that might be offensive, there is an online moderator to try to prevent that. I've actually not had that happen. I've used Padlet a fair bit, and my students have been pretty good about responding to a question in a way that's very respectful and appropriate. So I've not had that issue. But if that's something that you're concerned about, there is an online moderator for that. And you can incorporate not just text, but if you wanted to add pictures or video, etc. And of course, from a student's perspective, super important that yes, there is an app for that. So those are some of the wonderful things about Padlet. There are some challenges with it in terms of the functionality for the free version, because our university currently does not support Padlet, meaning they don't pay for it. So we can use it, obviously, with no problem. But if you use the free version, it used to be that you had unlimited Padlets, which would kind of be like having unlimited number of whiteboards. More recently, they started restricting how many you could have in a free version versus a paid version. So, so that's one of the challenges. And so I'm going to show you the ones that I have. I do want to also mention that Google has something a little bit similar to this called Jamboard, which we're going to demonstrate. That is essentially a free version of very similar type of functionality. And because that is becoming more popular, I'm kind of wondering if maybe in the future Padlet is going to be a little bit more liberal in terms of the functionality that they allow their free version to have, because obviously we're not all trying to pay for all this stuff. So any questions on any of this before I actually demonstrate it?
We
No?
had some clarifications actually. There's only 5. Anne's telling us there's only 5 now. They'll only let you have 5 Padlets right now. So we do hope that they'll unclench their fists and give us some more for sure. Thank you.
Yep. But the other thing is, of course, once you're done with the Padlet, you can delete it and then create another one. So that's one way, but then you couldn't, you know. So if you had 4 classes and you wanted to use 5 Padlets for all 4 classes, and that's where it gets to be a little challenging. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to share my Padlet screen so you can get a sense as to what it looks like. So let me pull that up. And the first one I'm going to show you is one that we used with a student organization. So this is one where we incorporated photos. So as you can see, the instructions are at the top of the Padlet. People then went to the Padlet and they started typing and they answered the questions and then uploaded some photos. This is again for a student organization. You can respond anonymously or you can require them to actually leave their names. So it kind of depends. So you can have them sign in and leave a name, or if you're okay with anonymous responses, you can have that as an option as well. Right. Any questions so far on this? So this is one, I'm going to have everybody type on a Padlet in just a second. And let's see if I have anything in the chat. Okay, I see there's gotten some comments in here. So looks like Jules is answering away here. So I'm going to keep going. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you the opportunity to actually type on one of the Padlets that I have set up. So I'm going to put a link to my Padlet in the chat, and I want you to access the link and go to the Padlet. So hopefully everybody sees that. And I'm going to pull the Padlet up on the screen so you can see it. So this is one that's set up a little bit differently. So I have created columns with headings. Feel free to click under any of the X's and type anything that you want, okay? Just to kind of let you get a feel for the software. And I'll give people a little bit of time to play for it. So if you had something like in this example where you specifically want people to respond to certain queries, or you want them to put things under certain headings, you can set it up in more of a columns type of format, and they can do so. And notice that in this situation, nobody has to log in. If you're just trying to collect ideas, you don't really care who they're from, this is a very easy way to do it. Everybody just accesses the link and basically starts typing. Any questions so far?
Yes, I have a question about Padlet. So as you were saying, you know, students or people can go in and add to or contribute to Padlet. The names don't have to be displayed, or will we know who's contributing? How does that work?
So you can set it up where they have to have their names displayed. So they basically have to log in and display their names. Or you can do it like I did this one, where anybody can respond and their names don't show up.
Okay. Okay. I was just asking for accountability reasons, so I'll know who has contributed or not. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We had a question about that in the chat too. How do you get them to, how do you log into Padlet? Because obviously you get access to it immediately. If you were to log in the top right-hand corner, there would be a login button, and you'd click on login, and then it would ask you, what do you want to log in with? You would choose Google, and then it will show you probably your UNC Charlotte Google account. It may show you your personal and your UNC Charlotte Google accounts. You would select your NinerNet credential UNC Charlotte Google account, and then it will log you into Padlet with your UNC Charlotte NinerNet credentials, and then anything you post will have your name tagged on it.
And you can set it up so there's lots of, and I can show some of the functionality here. So this is where it says modify. This is an existing Padlet. So, but obviously I can change the title. I can change the description here. You can change the background. I happen to use a corkboard. You can change this. It says wallpaper. You can upload your own pictures or you can use theirs. Here's the attribution, display author name above each post. So in that situation, if you want the name displayed, they would need to log in. And down here, If you want the newest post to show first, you can have that. In other words, if you're saying, okay, whoever posts the first is going to get credit or something, you could do that. And here is the moderation where it says require approval and filter profanity. So these are some of the things, some of the functionality. But it is very easy to use. I find people really like it. And for something like this where if I don't care about attribution, it's fantastic. It's almost the equivalent of someone writing on a Post-it note and sticking it on, like on a flip chart or something.
We do have some questions. I'm going to read them. Let's see. So Kendra's asking if you could demo how to add the label to the top really quickly. So how you have COVID impact marketing selection. Can you show how to add those labels?
Absolutely.
We've also got a lot of comments of people saying that they really like using Padlet. Anne says that her students really engage vigorously with Padlet. There's a question, could this work asynchronously as well?
It can. So, all right, let me first demonstrate and then we'll talk about asynchronous. So you see I can add a column. So I'm just going to click add column and I'll just call it testing. Save. And now here's your next column. If I want to change the name, I click here. I can rename the column. So call this something else. I've now renamed it. You can also, I'll just use the same one. You can move the column. So if I don't like it being here and I want to move it, 1 over or 2 over, you can do that. So there's a lot of flexibility with it, and it doesn't take. And look, I'm certainly not, your super deep IT expert, but really, it doesn't take a lot in order to be able to do those things. So very flexible there. Now, does that address the question about how you change the labels at the top?
Yes.
Okay. Jules, you mentioned there was another question. Oh, asynchronously. So one thing that you could do is you could create the Padlet. You could create an assignment in Canvas. And in the assignment, you just put the link to the Padlet. And you ask all the students to do this assignment, go to this link and complete the Padlet. And so that could be in an asynchronous environment. Or if you didn't want to do that, you could always just email them the link. If you want to just do it that way, you could do it that way. If you don't want to put it up on your Canvas, you could just send it to them. So I really like it because I think it's very flexible, very user-friendly. The students really get a kick out of it too, particularly when I'm doing something like this where I'm like, okay, just throw your thoughts up on, X, Y, Z. All right. So I'll stop share there and see if there's any other questions. How do you leave comments to the post? Oh, okay. Let me show you that too, and then I'll move on. Hold on. I'm going to pull up one where I actually did leave some comments. All right. So here's my screen here. So here are students who have, they're just introducing themselves, and notice at the bottom it says add comment. So I could literally just start typing. Right, and I've added a comment. Or if I say, you're on the right, if I want to give them feedback. That's another way to do it. Can you guys see my screen where I'm adding comments? Is that a yes?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. All right, fantastic. Any more questions on Padlet? Yep.
Cynthia, how'd you get that cool background in there?
It's in Padlet. And so
Okay.
it's a lot of backgrounds you can choose.
Nice.
All right. So I know we are running up against the clock here, so I'm going to stop on Padlet. You're welcome to reach out to me in the future on that one. But I think we better, in the interest of time, just keep going. So the next one that we have is Play Posit. I'm going to share my screen again so you can see that, and I'll go through this one pretty quickly. Whoa, hold on. Okay, so this is really a software where you can take video, either video that you created or someone else's video, and you can have the students watch the video and respond to questions embedded in the video. So that's the idea of it. So I know for some of you, you may already assign videos to your students. Perhaps you're wondering, are they watching the video? Are they getting anything out of the video? Is the video just playing while they're washing their hair, or whatever it is? So this tries to address some of those types of concerns. It is great with YouTube and other videos, very easy to edit the videos. So if you have a video that perhaps you only want to show 5 minutes of the video and the video is 20 minutes long, you can chop off the other 15 minutes. It allows you to ask multiple types of assessments, so multiple choice, fill in the blank, etc. If you want, you can do something where it can auto grade. So if it's a multiple choice, you can put what the right answer is and it will auto grade it and provide the output in an Excel spreadsheet. And it's great for smaller classes because the free version allows you 100 access points a month. So if you have smaller classes, I find that tends to be enough. For larger classes, you would probably need the paid version because you might need more access points than that. An access point is one student accessing the video. So if you have a class of 20 to 30 students and you're going to show 2 videos in a month, that would be fine in the free version, or you could even do 3 videos in a month. That's fine. Some of the disadvantages is it does incorporate with Canvas, but our university hasn't paid for that, so it doesn't incorporate into our Canvas. And therefore, when you get the Excel spreadsheet, if you are doing auto grading, someone is going to have to manually input those grades into Canvas. So that's what I have my GAs do. It does accept questions that require a numeric answer, but it's a little bit clunky with it. And we can go over that in a bit. It has no app. so from a student's perspective, that can be viewed as a pretty big downfall. And then, as I said before, the free version is good for smaller classes, kind of 35 students and less. If you have larger than that, you may not have enough access points to use this frequently. Any questions? I'll stop and take quick questions. Okay, so I'm going to now demonstrate very quickly, play pause it. And I'm going to show you my screen where I have created some play posits, and then I will walk you through them. So let me pull up mine. All right, so now you are looking at my screen for play posits. And play posit calls the questions that you ask bulbs. So it's a little bit of a different terminology, but add new bulb basically means you want to take a video and add some questions to it. So these are all videos. These ones up here, I have actually created these videos. This one here, how the stock market works, is a video that is someone else's that I got off of YouTube. And then these are ones I created as well. So to give you a demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and do an edit. Give it a second to pull up here. It's going to give me a little bit of an error mark because these are already videos that I have assigned to the students to do. So obviously if I make changes to it, it's going to screw the grading up. So that's why this is coming up. Okay, so it shows my video here on the right-hand side. And these interactions, which it calls bulbs, are the questions that I embedded in this video. This is a longer video. I tend to try to keep them at about 5 to 10 minutes. This topic required almost 15 minutes. So that's a long time to ask students to be engaged on a video. And so what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to put a bunch of questions in here to make sure they basically hang with me. Okay. So I've got 3 questions. Let me go up to the top here. One is at the 2 minute and 37 mark. I put check all that apply. Then I've got a question at the 6 minute and 37 mark. And then I've got a question at the 14 minute and 42 mark. And with these questions, in this particular case, I have it auto graded. So they get 1 point if they get it correct, and I can indicate in the software what is the correct answer. Okay, so I feel like I'm kind of running through a little bit, but I want to make sure we have time to cover some of the other softwares. So that's so what I really like about this again is it's pretty flexible. It also gives me the ability to, as I said before, edit this video. So if I don't want to start the video until maybe 3 minutes in, I could do that. So where it says video segments up here is where I have the ability to edit the video. I can add video, see how it has this little scissor thing. That's how you can chop off content. You can start it later, etc. So there's some pretty good functionality with it. I'm gonna go now to the one that I didn't create. And so this is a video that I just pulled off of YouTube that I thought that would be useful for my students. And we'll give it just a second here. And it's giving this warning because the students have already done this video as well. So if I mess around with it too much, I'm gonna end up messing up their grades. So that's what that's saying. But I do want you to see that it doesn't have to be your video. This is a video literally that I pulled off the internet. You can see the interactions that I added. There are these little dots here at the bottom of my screen. So I have one interaction there, one interaction here. So I have 3 interactions or bulbs. And again, it tells you here where they are and what the questions are. I have one at 3 minutes and 54 seconds, one at 4 minutes and 15 seconds, and one at 7 minutes and 30 seconds. And I have all of these on auto grade. So I've indicated what in this particular case at the bottom, they have to select both of these answers to get them correct. You can also have them redo the video multiple times. So if that's something that's important to you, you can do that. You can have them skip in the video, allow them to skip forward. You can have the video set the way I do where they cannot skip forward. They must literally watch the video. And then when they get to the question, answer the question before they can go forward. So there's lots of, and I'll show you one. And then you can easily add interactions. So since we're short on time, maybe I'll just stop there, but I will also say under review, there are some limits. So I've made it visible to my students basically. Here are the playback options where they can skip forward, fast forward, and some other stuff. But let me stop because I want to make sure we also address your questions and move on to some of the other software. Any questions on the Play Posit?
We had a question about whether or not people will be able to watch this recording again, and we will be putting this recording on the Center for Teaching and Learning's YouTube channel under the Active Learning playlist, and I usually get those up within about a week and a half at latest. So probably by next week, it'll be up.
All right. And I see there's a question about, do we ever get pushback from students that require more time for the quizzes and Play Posit? So the video itself, like the one I just showed you, I think was about 9 minutes long. When they get to the first question, let's say that's at the 3-minute mark, they can take as long as they need to answer the question. The 9 minutes just refers to the length of the time to watch the full video. But certainly the video stops when they get to the question. They can take as long as they need to answer the question. You can set it to indicate immediately if they got it right or wrong, and then they can move on. Or you can set it so they don't know if they got it right or wrong and they can move on. Does that get at your question, Karen? Let's see. I'm trying to get down here at the bottom here. Okay,
yes.
Great. Yeah. All right, great. All right. And so I'll just summarize by saying with Play Posit, again, very easy to use. Really good if you're going to be doing some video assignments and you want to feel very confident that your students are in fact watching them. If the material is challenging, you can allow them to watch and do the questions multiple times. So, all right, I'm going to hop off and let my co-presenters go on with the rest of it.
Right. Thanks a lot, Cynthia. So I will be presenting a conference room tool. I know we're all already familiar with Zoom. We probably use Zoom breakout sessions, etc. But I want to present another one called GatherTown. So GatherTown, you can get to it by going to gather.town, and I'll show you that in a moment. The idea is that instructors can set up a virtual classroom space. You can arrange it like a physical space. So you can have tables with chairs around it and so on for different groups of students, kind of like you would arrange an active learning classroom, for instance. And students, TAs, and instructors can log in and they show up as these tiny little avatars, virtual avatars, and they can interact with each other via their webcam, video, audio, and screen share. And they can also chat with each other. Now, the advantages are that it can be set up kind of similar to a real classroom, right? And the participants who are near each other can hear, see, and screen share with each other. So there's this notion of an interaction distance, which means you can only see people that are close to you. You can only hear people that are close to you. That means if you have 10 tables spread around the space, you can actually have 10 different parallel conversations going on in that space. The one thing that I really like about GatherTown is that there's an option for you to spotlight somebody. For example, the instructor could spotlight themselves, and that enables them to share video, audio, or screen with all participants in this space. And this is one thing that you can't really do with Zoom. So once you've started Zoom breakout sessions, they're all kind of independent rooms. You can send a short broadcast message, but that appears as a tiny tag that people probably ignore. There's no good way for the instructor to talk to all the breakout rooms at once, and GatherTown offers that option. There are a few disadvantages in terms of recording and accessibility. The biggest disadvantage is that the free version can only support 25 participants in the space at a given time. However, the nice thing is that it's just a limit on the number of people that can be in there at a specific time. So let's say you have multiple lab sessions of 25 each, you can still share that same space for all of those labs. Also, what we're doing in our college is we have 3 or 4 different instructors who are teaching different courses at different times of day. So we paid for one large space and we're all sharing it because we teach at different times. So that's something that you can consider as well. It is not currently integrated with Canvas and it's not officially supported by UNCC yet, but you can restrict access to a specific roster of email addresses. So you could put in your student roster to GatherTown. So I'll quickly demonstrate GatherTown. You just go to gather.town and let me go into launch Gather. I'm not going to walk into one of these classrooms because I think there might actually be a class going on in one of them, but I will show you this one just to give you a feel for what it looks like. So here it asks me to put my name, and I have turned off webcam feed right now, and I'll also mute myself because I don't want audio from 2 spaces to mess things up. But you would basically join the gathering, and you see here that my tiny little avatar is showing up. And that avatar, you can just use your arrow keys to navigate through the space. This one is kind of set up like a lounge area where students can just go and hang out, etc. But depending on how you set it up, it works differently. So you can just navigate through the space, go and explore it. And if this is set up as a classroom, then you would have tables. You could assign tables to specific groups. You could add a label saying, okay, here's your table, go sit there. The other nice thing is you can actually set up some whiteboards and posters. So let me walk up here. Actually, that's in another space. Let me go to that one. Sorry about that. I think in this space, there's actually a, yeah. So if you go into this space here, you'll see this little whiteboard and you can actually interact with it. So you can, when you're near a whiteboard, you can look at the whiteboard, you can write on the whiteboard, you can hear others, talk to others and discuss about it, etc. And in this particular space, I want to show you how we can set up posters as well. Sorry, this is a large space, so I have to walk a long distance to get to some of them. So we actually had some awards and we used this for the award ceremony, and we set up these little posters where we said, okay, here's an award certificate and so on. So it was a nice interactive way for students to, or participants in this case, to go in and look at things. So you could set up posters, whiteboards, etc. in this space. So that's GatherTown. Yeah, so how do students join your group if not used through Canvas? So it's not supported through Canvas, but you can import a roster into GatherTown, and that all that does it restricts the email addresses of students that can log into GatherTown. But once they have access, it doesn't stop them from going into the space at any time they want. So you would have to inform your students that they should only use the space during the class session, when whatever class it's being used in. Any other questions about GatherTown? I know this was a really quick one because we are running out of time, but I'm happy to answer other questions offline as well if anyone has questions. Okay, I don't see any right now. The other one I was going to walk through is Jamboard. I don't know if we have time, and we did want to leave some time for questions. So Cynthia, Celia, Monica, what do you think?
Well, it's pretty similar to
Padlet.
Yeah, so
maybe just a very quick
mention it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do a quick mention and try to leave just a couple minutes for questions, and I can stay on longer if necessary, but we would do want to respect everyone's time. So.
Yeah, good idea.
And I think some of you in the poll mentioned that you're already familiar with Jamboard. It is an online whiteboard and it is built into the Google ecosystem, so it's easy and free for us to access. The so-called jams, which is basically the sessions that you have a Jamboard for, they can be started from within a Google Meet. But unlike the Zoom whiteboard, you can actually, that board will last. It's just saved automatically into your Google Drive, which means you could access the board and interact with it offline as well, so asynchronously. And instead of going through this slide, I'm just going to do a very quick demo.
Harini, can you go to the next slide and let me just show?
Oh, yeah. I'll just do, do you want to do the demo with the next slide? Okay.
Yes, please. I just wanted to show you, because of time, an idea that might come up real quick, and it's called a midterm checkup using Jamboard. And I asked the class what's working, what isn't working. And so there's the assignment, but at the bottom, as you see, it's asking the group to create a Jamboard using a meme that reflects where they are at midterm, along with the Google Doc. And I just wanted to show you real quick, next slide, what one of those looks like. So this is one group talking about midterm last term using Jamboard. That's all I wanted to say, but it's a fun assignment and they loved it. It was helpful to me too. Thanks.
Okay, folks, I think we are almost over time here, and we want to leave a few minutes to take your questions. We know this is a lot of information, but this session is really designed to give you an overview of software that you can consider using as a tool within your classes to really drive some student engagement. So to the extent that you're interested in learning any more information about these tools, we're all happy to help, and you can also reach out to Jules and CTL. So let's stop there and see what questions people have. Anyone want to just unmute themselves and make a comment or ask a question?
We had a question if y'all would be willing to share the slide deck with everyone who's present today. And if that's a yes, then I will send a follow-up email later this afternoon with the slides.
Not a problem.
And since we don't have any other questions that have come in yet, I do believe that Monica wanted to speak quickly about breakout rooms. Monica, do you want to talk about that really quickly since we have 3 minutes left?
Excellent. I think, thank you, Jules, for, adjusting this time thing. I just wanted to very, very quickly go over, and since you guys will have access to the slides, if you have any specific questions, you can reach out to each of the presenters. But the easiest way for us, I learned it through one of my professional meetings, is if you guys, click on the participants tab in your Zoom, and on the right-hand side, you will see a list of the participants. And you don't have to click right now, but if you just scroll under your on your name, there is a tab that comes more, and then it has a drop-down menu. I usually advise my students to rename themselves and they can either put in parentheses the group name, or however you want to identify your large audience into smaller groups. This is very helpful to create breakout rooms, and some of this work can be done prior to the session or prior to your class. And some of the times it can also be done while you are in a session. That also increases, participant interaction. And the another good thing about the breakout room is that you can assign a question or small exercises to different rooms. And as a host or as a facilitator, you have the ability to go to these rooms and be present there as you would do in a classroom if you had different groups and you would go and talk to different groups. I'm sensitive about the time. We have only 1 minute left, but if anybody has any questions, please reach out to each of the presenters. You will have access to the slides. Reach out to Jules. And thank you so much for you guys to attend this session. Thanks a lot for all my co-participants. It was a pleasure working with them. And thank you, Jules, for organizing this. And thanks for ALA to give everybody this opportunity.
Thank you to my presenters today. This has just been so much good information. Everyone's really excited. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let everyone send me, yes, we're going to get more information. Harini's going to share more information about Gather Town. If all of the presenters want to send me some resources about what you presented on today, a link to access that tool, then I'll include that in the email, and I'll note which ones are enterprise-wide supported and which ones are not. And I think there was a great question, if it's not enterprise-wide supported, how do I get more info about it? You have to kind of go get it yourself. And you just have to remember that if something goes wrong technically, you're on your own basically to solve it. If it's enterprise-wide supported, One IT will help you. But I don't let that stop me, because these tools are fun and they're engaging. And if I can make them work in my classes, I always have a plan B. I'm like, if something breaks, what am I going to do? So always have a plan B, but, explore some of these tools, because they really do engage the students and they shake it up. The students are used to seeing Poll Everywhere all the time because it's enterprise-wide supported. They're used to seeing Kaltura in video quizzing because it's enterprise-wide supporting, and it doesn't do all the cool things that PlayPosit does. So, using free tools is a great opportunity. You just have to remember you have to have a plan B if something breaks. So this has been a great session today. I will send that email out later today, maybe tomorrow at latest after we get all the information with links. I'll also include the link to the YouTube channel for the CTL. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful week.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.